And now we are streaming. I thought he had set that.
Oh, dream on, my brother.
Dream on.
How's this microphone?
Let me just adapt that and adjust it.
Adjust that.
Because I thought I had it set right, but maybe I didn't.
We'll be right back.
Oh, that's what I did. I had it completely backwards. It's 393. And now try it there.
All right. Oh, that's overpowering. Yeah. Try to avoid that. An Anglo-Saxon poem in an English version by W.S. Merwin. Leviathan.
Oh, nice.
This is the Black Sea brute, bulling through wave rack, ancient as ocean's shifting hill, who in sea toils traveling, who furrowing the salt acres heavily, his wake hoary behind him, the fist of his forehead over wastes gray-green crashing, among horses unbroken from bellowing fields, past bone wreck of vessels, tide ruin, wash of lost bodies, bobbing, no longer sought for, and islands of ice gleaming, who ravening the rank sea flood, wave marshalling, overmastering the dark sea marches, finds home and harvest. Frightening to foolhardiest mariners, his sighs were difficult to describe. The hulk of him is like hills heaving, dark yet as crags of drift ice, crowns cracking in thunder, like land's self by night, black looming, surf churning and trailing along his shores, rushing, shoal water boding about the dark of his jaws. And who would moor at his edge and fare on afoot, would find gates of no gardens, but the hill of dark underfoot, diving, closing overhead, the blue deep and drowning. He is called Leviathan, and named for rolling. First created he was of all living creatures. He has held Jonah 3 days and nights. He is that curling serpent that in ocean is. Sea fright he is, and the shadow under the earth. Days there are, nonetheless, when he lies like an angel, although a lost angel, on the wast's unease. No eye of man moving, bird hovering, fish flashing, creature whatever, who after him came to herit earth's emptiness. Froth that flanks seething soothes to stillness, waits. With one eye he watches dark of night sinking last. With one eye day rise, as at first over foaming pastures. He makes no cry, though that light is a breath. The sea curling, star-climbed, wind-combed, cumbered with itself. Still, as at first it was, is the hand, not yet contented, of the Creator, and he waits for the world to begin.
I love it!
I love it! Oh, there you go. Oh, and just like for him, since he read a poem by someone else, I give him the attribution sheet and a handy-dandy pen. So I don't have to always think that it's Bob Marley and the Wailers doing their version of Petticoat Junction's alternate theme.
Also, can I just say, if you're going to do someone else's poem and you want to claim that it's your own, then you don't have to sign that. Up next is one of my favorite people in the whole world, Buford. Bring him up, Buford.
Come on.
You continue to be funny. That was fun. No, that was nice.
Giants finally won today.
Hell yeah!
6-5.
They got about 125 games to win now.
Christian Arroyo got a 3-run double in the ninth.
Tom's the only person I know here, at least, who knows as much about baseball as I do. This is called Class Full. A class full of nice students one or two a bit confused. Study hall sometimes full of the studious, sometimes slackers. Radio playing teacher studying some problem. Okay, there's one. Well, I'm a teacher's aide in San Francisco School District. For people who don't know that, Dan knows.
I know.
Dan used to be a big-time teacher there.
Big time.
Okay. Nobody home. I'm not able to figure out what's going on right now. My impression different from lots of other people. I take a shot at it and speak.
Yeah, take a shot and speak. Don't hold back.
Up next is Owen Dunkel.
Throw in
Bring him up, come on up, Owen. We love Owen.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Only the people in this room.
No, every person, the whole unit.
Question. The corn wind, sea flakes, deer sea feet, deep sea feet fall around a snowbank of dry trees, caught all up in a whirlwind of the hailstorm of ill voices. A calliope of palaces climb up to the dry ground, mimicry of the ashes of leaves. Sonnet, Monday at dusk. I lift my feet along the way from light to heavy. The road of brightness rests on my load of excitement upon the sullen bay of desuetude. I look at the big gray sky, the bus driven like a coach of old, Dickens-like. Barkus is always willing, sang the cold feet. I'll put a sock in it, play ball. When the darkened hall of serenity I see in men with their wives, look into the darkness of the small betrayal of their hollow eyes. Shouts of the 21st century storm the air of the sharp evening of an emptiness of care. Daybreak. Apples fall from the window. Tears lie in wait at my door. Leaves are quiet in late October. Cancel the sky of the poor. Users like sharpened pencils ride the bus once more. Feelings lost to the bric-a-brac. Stars that welded for score. We think and talk in the sun. Red meaty blood and gore. Our minds made up like yesterday. Confession a deadly bore. Sinners wail by my window. Cruel sounds I ignore. Gnashing continues throughout the day. Sleeping at night at shore. Noon. The poet like a Spanish shepherd sat in the sun. The sun, that hot, tough straw boss, cries of the shade of the trees, acquiesces to the fair banks of the leaves. Staccato. A sea of angels foretold its passing waves, dock with their fists on the seawall of yesterday, a knife-like thread of the raving of their gray air, telling the story of the future of ants, beetles, mice, the like of the nature of the estuary like birdsong, mining the verbal consciousness of existence, as you are betrayed by your lover in the midst of a dream. Vacancies. Every tree the great iron cattle car the L passes. Every true San Franciscan rides the L car, or he is probably from some other hemisphere of space, of time, born not of great iron nobility, the new muni of now to eventuality, past stolid sunny Castro Street, the iron muse epictetus of the dawning driven 21st century, the rococo inlaid church car, the 37 bus to Great Gone, Busy Hollow, Haight Street. Ginsburg at prayer has driven monks dressed in pajamas to the sultry fields, to the exotic, erotic Halloween ball in a pumpkin-colored coach made of glue slippers, snaking, smiling, speaking, sparkling to each and every man jack passing them by. Curses foiled again snarled their eyes to the tip of their devil-may care, forked tongue.
Okay, sir. You got half a minute. This one.
What?
Got half a minute.
Okay, thank you. At ease. Lines flow out like a lava lariat loop, like a Spanish dancer's spike-capped flamenco heels, a gypsy's swirling cabaret castanets over snoring library patrons, snuffling through the noontime angelus, Paternoster Angelicus, made per heaven's great seraphim soaring wing. This is my significance written, a tercet to fast company.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Owen.
Owen Dunkel.
And thank you very much.
Owen, I would kill to have your way with words.
Well, thank you.
I just like to kill, so there's something wrong with me. And just want to run down the rest of the first half so everybody knows. Jack Melander, sorry, is that right? Yeah, Jack Melander's next. James Conrad, Tom Holberg, Richard Sandoval, Alan Harris. I'm sorry, Sandoval.
Sandoval.
What did I say?
Sandoval.
You went to the Americano.
Sorry. That's Scoundrel Alan Harris, Daniel P. Brady, exclamation point, Wendy, and then our feature.
All right. So
Okay, so coming up next, Jack Melander.
Jack Melander.
This is called Prayer to a Weather God. Oh, Trump, you have declared that you can make the nation great again, so I kneel in obeisance to the God you pronounce yourself. Oh, Trump, I do so desire to be your lower middle-class votary, for have you not granted me the dispensation of despising your industrial assemblies of wage lackeys milling about outside my family circle of sexual repression? Oh, Trump, you have pointed out the villainy of Latinos disappearing, all our gainful employed technologically outsourced, and granted us the boon of that designated scapegoat, so I magnify that glorious moniker. Oh, Trump, you have eased the cockles of my anxious heart with your divine reassurances of the gospel alternatives of no polar meltdown, no species die-off, no toxic estuaries, no global heat-up. So should you not be my Führer forever? Oh, glorious Trump, you have shown the mother love of our motherland and this mother earth her rightful place. You have enjoined me to snatch the moon of my improvident uselessness without a by your leave, and I must worship you. So I shall boldly exercise my free speech to laud and praise your sanctimonious handle until my First Amendment rights go the way of privacy and intellectual property, and the smog of your rhetoric chokes the breath of my poetry out of my gasping robot throat.
I think that was a political piece.
In space, they call it O, the point they make, extending that six-segment straight of which 3+ directions take, called forward, right, or up, create their opposites, back, left, or down, their stylic negative, then stretch all 6 ends out past the edge of town, each duple axis, positive and minus, perpendicular to plane where the other two may live. These map makers then go too far. 3 sign coordinates they assign, 3 distances from every point to get to any axis line. What omnipresent powers anoint these heads that feign to compass all of space? They fear no vanity, nor reckon hearts of poetry can sing their own geometry, where most ingenious pride must fall, can rhyme how technocratic man colleague in Mother Earth's disgrace. Let all their evil graphing then, in its Cartesian plane or space, be closed in mirror pentagons, or by dodecahedrons bound that center on the origins of weapons formulas were found, whose imp derivers view till late their cursed fallen broken state, and forthwith weaken unto death, The rest of space can take a breath. Its denizens no more play rubes, all sliced and diced in squares and cubes. Despite each demon's failing jibe, a huge icosal leave room then let these poet circumscribe about each moaning jail tune, so devils view with their release on each triangular bulkhead old bards portrayed who sought surcease from diabolic plottings dread, or angels framed in trinities who do with hellions what they please.
Jack Melander! By the way, poets, just so you know, the First Amendment has been repealed, so careful what you say about Trump. Up next, James Conrad.
Let's enjoy Keely.
Are you really a Red Sox fan?
Yeah.
That's my second favorite team.
Very nice. Hi, I'm James Conrad, and today we are doing the second episode of my new book, The Madman at the Mechanics Institute. I do have a couple copies with me for sale, if you're keen on buying one. So without further ado, The Madman at the Mechanics Institute, Episode 2. In all, Cheng played 7 games with the old man. As soon as the old man lost the last game, he looked at his watch. Well, it's about 4:30. I should probably head out. I'm meeting my son for dinner at 6. Have fun, said Cheng, giving the old man's hand an affable shake. It was great to play with you. You too. Just then, Josh walked up to the table, giving Cheng a cocky smile, using only his mouth while his eyes glowed with faint contempt. You want to play? Yeah, said Cheng. I could use the practice. Better watch out for Josh here, said Donald, a large black man with white, kinky hair at a nearby table, glancing in the direction, a hint of mockery in his voice. He'll clean you out, lickety-split. Nah, he'll probably beat me because he's Asian, said Josh, with fake self-deprecation, a sneer twisting his lips. We'll see, said Cheng, with quiet, deadpan confidence, ignoring the slur passed off as a compliment. What side? I'll take black if you want. Tell you what, said Cheng, grabbing a pawn of each color. Let's make it fair. He hid the pawns behind his back and shuffled them until one was in each hand. He then held his fists out in front of him and said, pick one. Josh did as he was told and ended up with the black pawn. Once the pieces were in place, Josh said, I just want to tell you before we start that my pawns all found Jesus and are now bishops. Very funny, said Cheng. Josh laughed a little. Just kidding, man. It's your turn. Cheng moved his king's pawn to e4. Then Josh moved his, meeting him head-on at e5. Cheng played the Vienna game, moving his queen's knight to c3. With an arrogant smirk stretching above his chin, Josh took his queen out early, landing her on h4. Cheng then moved his other knight to f3 without batting an eyelash. Sensing danger, Josh moved his queen back to f6, and Cheng seized upon the opportunity to threaten the queen, moving his knight to d5. Josh chewed his lips as his nerves began to tingle. Hesitating for a few seconds, he moved his queen to e6. Right afterward, Cheng picked up his knight and captured the pawn at c7, binding Josh's king and queen in a fork. Check, said Cheng. Shit, muttered Josh as his face began to flush up just a little. Up to this point, he'd been able to avoid this particular predicament. In fact, the only time he ever lost a queen was when he, having lost patience with a player, sometimes very early in the game, forced an exchange that would cost him and his opponents their queens. He took a deep breath. Do you want to start over? Your hand is off the piece, said Cheng, fixing Josh with a soft but assertive gaze. Excuse me. Yes, that's true. Josh thought for a minute. He'd never checkmated without his queen still in play and was worried that if he tried, he would not fare so well. Then again, he wasn't willing to settle for a draw, as he believed deep in his heart he had to prove his superiority over Cheng, and nothing short of a win would suffice. Do you want to start over? He asked. Same sides? So you want to forfeit? Asked Cheng with a modest tone. We could call it a draw. Cheng shook his head and pointed at the board. But you are in check and will lose your queen. Yeah, but... Oh, for God's sake, Josh, grumbled Donald. You had it too good for too long. Just forfeit and take the damn loss, man. This ain't no tournament. Ain't nobody keeping score. It's up to you, said Cheng. Okay, Josh, we can start over, but this game doesn't count. If you say so. said Chang with a non-committal voice. So tune in next week for episode 3 of The Madman and the Mechanics Institute. And I have a couple copies left, so if you're keen on one, please come and see me. Thank you.
See him at the break. He has books.
James Conrad!
James Conrad!
Up next, Tom Holberg. Sorry, Holmberg.
Holmberg.
Sorry. Alan Harris. Yeah, you can mispronounce it if you want.
Alan Harris.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I did it right.
You did. That's perfect. Oh, sorry.
Well,
Over that, or
no, I'm fine.
He's good. He knows what he's doing.
Hiya.
Hiya.
I'm glad to be with you again. I haven't been here for a while, and I have no excuses, so don't give me any shit, please. I'm happy to be with you, and thank you for your
Inspiration.
inspiration. I mean, what's that?
Thank you, Boyer.
Yeah. You know, I do want to tell you a little story before I get started.
All right.
I've been worrying about my age. And when I go on Muni, young women get up and offer me their seats.
Yeah, what you noticed?
Yeah, you know, one time this young lady said, "Would you like my seat?" And I said, "Oh, no, honey, I don't mind standing." And she said, "Well, I was taught to give my seat to my elders when I was young." And I said, "Well, crap, when I was young, I was taught to give my seat to young women, so sit still." And she said, "Thanks, I have fibromyalgia and I'm tired." And I said, "Well, gosh, what can I say?" And another time, this lady, she must have been 58, you know, she had silver hair and she was pretty. And she was Jewish, you know, you could tell. And she said, "Here, sit." And I said, "What?" She said, "Sit." I said, no, I'm not going that far." And she said, "No, sit, you deserve it." And I had a little voice in the back of my head. Have you ever had a voice in the back of your head?
Yes.
And the voice said, "I don't want to sit, honey, I want to suck your face." But, you know, I didn't say that.
Oh, yeah, good move.
So here I am saying this in front of all you people. I'm a dirty old man. But it worries me sometimes. Okay. Those were true stories. Okay, well, here's one. It's the first one I came to. It's called "Damned If You Do, Damned If You Don't." I think there is a copyright on that line in heaven. I think God has already sued us and won. He just keeps us around because he thinks we're funny. Well, here's another Muni story. I'll be damned. A lonely man was sitting in a cable car, or on a cable car maybe. He was talking to himself. He said, "I don't feel lonely now. I should get out more often." A woman overheard. She sat next to him and poked him with her elbow. That's not a true story, but
Ought to be.
it ought to be. It could be.
It'll happen now.
Oh, I did write a poem about Trump. Here it is. It's short. That's it. That's the whole poem. You like that?
Yeah, well, you know. Works for me.
Yeah.
expect a call from the Secret Service.
Yeah. I'm not sure it would go over well in Dallas. But, anybody who reads history knows enough to be scared. Those who do not read history will not know all the terrible mistakes of the past. Are they destined to repeat those? No wonder people smile so much at Save the World movies.
You've got 20 seconds. Last 20 seconds.
20 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, here's another one. It's called the amygdala. And that's about 20 seconds, so I'll get back to you another time.
Amygdala!
Tom Holmberg.
Tom Holmberg.
I love a good mockery of the Almighty. Okay.
Mighty Mercury.
Up next is a man whose name I mispronounced earlier, which is ironic because I love him. Richard Sanderell.
Richard the Sanderell.
You on a New York subway?
Well, that's just my general announcement voice, which is not understood by anybody, not even me.
Just like at a New York subway.
Yeah, sort of
You just being the teacher from Charlie Brown.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I remember that. That's good. Give him a round of applause!
Can I do it?
Yeah.
All right. One of these poems will be for Kim, but the first two won't be. Time is shortening. Shortening. The brain, Stephen Hawkins, gives us 100 years left on the planet. If true, maybe we should stop killing each other. Life, death, comes for universes, one day for our mother. Nothing is permanent, yet never destroyed. So what's to become of all this? Many ways to kill ourselves, but I'm betting on the cosmos and its chaos. Meteor here, a comet there. Sad to say, but it might be what saves us and the mother from us. There have been many close calls lately. This cannot be understated. One between us and the moon. If Mother's not blown apart, it will destroy our technology, pollution from our petrochemicals. It will be Earth healing herself. It may be a beautiful sight from space, Earth being terraformed. Not so much for us. Beautiful cosmos creates universes which black holes clean up after. So please, before our end, let's find some love, understanding, peace might follow. Grab it, dance, make love, music, speak. I'm no saint or Buddha. Humanity, know your best while monitoring your innate primitive to know when to pull back and to move forward. Yeah, that's right. Peace, love, understanding. Understand? You know, these things we have yet to attain. Maybe it's time to party down like it's 1491. He only wanted the money. Visiting someone I had went to school with lives in one of those typical split-level houses with the grotto of the Virgin Mary. She has quite a hold on this region. Even as a child, I painted Catholic icons at my second father's house, where he had these icons. When my third father passes, American Legion sent an honor guard. One member is my schoolmate, who I hadn't seen in many a year. He married into a mixed family who has Cherokee blood. His wife passed from cancer. I visit him on his farm and meet his son, who is in his late 20s. My friend's mother kept watch on me as a child, without going into reasons why. She encouraged me when she infrequently saw me. I acted in a couple of school plays. People comment. She thinks I should pursue it. she is kind. My thought was he'd be fighting for native rights, but I heard none of that. As a white man, he wanted to know how he could get it and tap in and get that gambling money. His love for natives went as far as only wanting the money, not the struggle. Hail all USA's citizenry. All hail their money. And the one for Kim is one I'll be reading at an event coming. And it's a summer event. So it's called Mowing Grass. The smell of new mown grass on a warm summer afternoons were ladies' bug. Katie did state that Katie did. Cicada gives voice to the bull roarers, all driven from the new mown grass. No.
Hey, Richard
Sandrell. Who says you can't write good poetry on a computer? Come on. Okay, up next is one of America's finest poets. Oh, I'm sorry, it's me. Okay.
Give it up for Alan Harris, ladies and gentlemen, my co-host of the evening, who has been blabbercating as much as anybody can, and we love him, or respect him, even in the morning.
God bless. Just kidding. There is no God.
What's his name again?
I was going to say Richard Sanderwell.
Richard Sanderwell. When I talk about that good Christian with the multi-million-dollar book, radio, and TV deals who practices a particular kind of Christianity that can be best described as convenient and at worst as an hypocrisy so immense that it has its own zip code, who claims to bow to only one king, God, while also claiming that there is no liberty without security because one of the sponsors of his show manufactures safes, and who recommends to his God-fearing audience that they should handle money the way that God would want them to by turning their money over to this one particular investment firm that also happens to be one of his sponsors, while at the same time insisting that unemployed people have their welfare and unemployment benefits cut off because they have the nerve, the unmitigated gall, to spend those benefits on food and a place to live. I am aware of the fact that I am not pointing out anything that hasn't already been pointed out by people far superior to me in every way possible, and that no one beyond a small group of like-minded people even gives a shit what I think. And that what I am actually doing is what is known as preaching to the choir, which, by the way, is fine with me. I like preaching to the choir. The choir is cool because the choir thinks just like I do. The goddamn choir is fucking awesome! I may be just another nobody with a God complex, but I have a whole motherfucking choir listening to me, translating my words into choir speak, and singing my ideas to anyone who will listen, which of course is practically no one. But who knows, maybe at some point a seed or two will be planted that one day, hundreds of years from now, during Trump's 90th term, might sprout into a real solution to a real problem, which will make all of the obvious point making about someone else's religious hypocrisy worth it, and prove once and for all that just because a target is easy to hit doesn't mean that you shouldn't shoot at it. Thank you. And of course, I'm not advocating violence towards anyone. A satellite photo of a hot chocolate gets me thinking about how toilets are outlawed in Connecticut. Soon my hallucinations are having kittens. Like, I meet my paternal grandfather when he was the age that I am now. He owns a very profitable hay braiding shop in Vladivostok and offers to teach me the business. Like, a sociopathic scallion represents me in court when I brought up on charges of trying to sell Texas to an extraterrestrial. Like, a blues-playing Singapore sling sidles up to me and sticks its mink spatula in my ear. Like, I marry a rewind button. Like, I tell Keith Richards that he looks healthy. Like, I torture some chili beans, and they scream for help, but I just laugh and order a pizza. Like, disappointed mushrooms appear on Oprah. Like, jock itch wins an Oscar. Like, rats turn out to be very small, hairy Republicans with terrible eating habits. Like, someone opens a Burger King on my left eye. Finally, I scorch Brooklyn porcelain. Immediately, all of my muscles testify. The tiles before my eyes melt and reform as the face of God. Chrome fixtures are born again. A urinal cake ascends to heaven. A condom machine takes a vow of chastity. And I become pastor of the Church of the Empty Bladder. Millions join my flock, and together we give thanks for the miracle of whizzing. And that is why I say that you should put away your Bibles, put away your Torahs, put away your Qurans, and let us pray, let us sing, let us urinate. So that together we will all be, in God's eyes, empty bladders. Thank you.
Alan Harris.
Thank you. Up next, Daniel Brady, exclamation point.
Thank you, Lemmy. Thank you. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Alan, for assisting me with the process of assistance, as it were. Thank you.
My best, Dan.
Thank you. So, the theme had to. Let me just.
The theme?
Oh, fighting for freedom. All right. So I have two pieces this evening. This one first is short. I always have a hard time saying this name, so I will try very slowly. Malala Yousafzai. She was the girl in Afghanistan with the bus. Okay. So I wrote this, I got inspired, wrote this and sent it to her, and she actually said, thank you very much, really, through email, so that's great. Then I revised it because they wanted to, but anyway, there we go. Song of Light. Sing of that light, hope and joy, a gleam in her eyes. Sing of a girl who shed blood on their lies. Sing of a girl whose words rang true. Sing of her light and her innocence too. Sing of the girl on a school bus one day. Sing of her sight, seeing the blindness in her way. Sing of that light within a girl's soul. Sing of a girl who would live her life whole. Sing of the light, the soul of one girl. Sing of the changes she's made in her world. The song of a soul is both eternal and great. It cannot be put out, never has been to date. And this is a short poem. I'm going to introduce it, read it, and then sing it because it goes both ways. So, I mean, a lot of people have heard this song, The Minstrel Boy, from Star Trek and stuff like that. But this is a little bit of the story behind it. The Minstrel Boy is an Irish patriotic song written by Thomas Moore, who lived from 1779 to 1852. He said it to the melody of the Maureen, an old Irish air. It is widely believed that Moore composed the song in remembrance of a number of his friends whom he met while studying at Trinity College in Dublin and who participated in and were killed during the Irish Rebellion of 1798. So the words are, "The minstrel boy to the war has gone, in the ranks of death you'll find him. His father's sword he has girded on, and his wild harp slung behind him. Land of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betrays thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee. The minstrel fell, but the foeman's chain could not bring that proud soul under. The harp he loved never spoke again, for he tore its cords asunder, and said, no chains shall sully thee, thou soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free. They shall never sound in slavery." So I'm going to try to sing it here. Thank you. Thomas Moore. The minstrel boy to the war is gone. In the ranks of death you'll find him. His father's sword he has girded on, and his wild harp slung behind him.
Land of song, said the warrior bard, though all the world betrays thee, one sword at least thy rights shall guard, one faithful heart shall praise thee. The minstrel fell, but the foeman's chain could not bring that proud soul under. The harp he loved never spoke again, for he tore its cords asunder, and said, no chains shall sully thee, thou soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free, they shall never sound in slavery. Thank you.
Dan Brady. Maybe you've heard of him. Up next, our next reader is, everyone knows, it's Wendy.
Wendy Walters.
Please welcome
please.
Wendy.
Oh, we gotta lower the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. You didn't know. You're just getting organized.
Wendy's not tall like me.
Yeah, she's taller. Whore.
Is that okay?
What a lovely host. Everybody around for Alan.
Alan Harris, come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I'm going to start with a poem I wrote when I was feeling very fed up with all the data collecting and knowledge collecting and information collecting and just the saturation of it, and how much humans are beginning to lose just being in life and being present with their experience rather than just in their head. It's called What is the Worth of an Experience? Life begins with impressions of light and sound, then presents feelings, a foundation to start, and then comes meaning. Emotions are born. Soon, some become outlooks not meant to be worn. I've thought about hardship, every version there could be, how sometimes they weigh too much and get the best of you and me. Fear brings shudders of many a scare, disappointments yield their tears, and when not known and honored, anger's conflicts loom quite near. But I've also seen life's goodness, something bigger in the air, that somehow wraps around us all, sustaining us through every care. While there are doorways to our souls, hidden deep within our hearts, yet we get buried by life's stories with ideas that separate us from ourselves. There is no price for rage and grief, nor the narrowing of life's gain, and the worth of peace and joy can never be measured by any means. Things are things. We swap and guess our next pursuit of happiness, but the substance of experience is what we have, worth everything. I can't touch experience with my hands, or make it come or go, but it will tell me what I need to know. It will take me to myself and what is true, and maybe it will pave the way to connect what is me with what is you.
All right.
Wendy Walters.
We're just doing applause. You have
Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay.
What's that left?
It's okay.
What's not
Oh, you got almost 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Three. Almost 3.
2.5, 3.
I just wanted to read this.
2.795843276554387828.
But now negative.
I just wanted to read this poem by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. It's called Pity the Nation, after Khalil Gibran. Pity the nation whose people are sheep and whose shepherds mislead them. Pity the nation whose leaders are liars, whose sages are silenced, and whose bigots haunt the airwaves. Pity the nation that raises not its voice except to praise conquerors, and acclaim the bully as hero, and aims to rule the world by force and by torture. Pity the nation that knows no other language but its own, and no other culture but its own. Pity the nation whose breath is money and sleeps the sleep of the too well-fed. Pity the nation. Oh, pity the people who allow their rights to erode and their freedoms to be washed away. My country, tears of thee, sweet land of liberty.
Nice.
Just one more short thing. This is a poem written by Sally Love Saunders, who comes here once in a blue moon. And she does once or twice a year a poetry workshop at the Cultural Integration Fellowship. I think she's going to have one in June, so I'll find out the date. And she does a lot of playful, childlike poems, and also some poems sometimes that are really clever and really catch me. And this one's called Non-Involvement. I think this is what happens a lot with people nowadays in this day and age, especially with cell phones. She goes to the zoo, looks at the animals, but does not feed them. She goes to the art museum, sees the statues, but doesn't feel them. She went to the beach, but never allowed the salt to sting her. She shook his hand, but never held it. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And again, I'm going to give her the attribution sheet, if you could...
So if you want to claim that you wrote that, I'll back you up.
Like that used...
on you.
All right.
25?
Yeah. So, Kim, would you like to come forth, my friend, and speak and hold us wrapped in your attentions and literature and cultural wisdom?
Oh dear.
That almost didn't come out well.
I'm not sure I have.
Give her a nice round.
Do you know what? I have adjusted mics for years. I'm okay.
All right.
I can do this. I'm so tempted to tell my joke about the fact that my parents worried that I would end up in dark rooms, holding on to poles and entertaining groups of people.
Not Czechoslovakians? Oh, sorry.
Okay, so this is the fourth and final. I can't see you when I'm wearing this. This is the fourth and final one of the series that I've helped Dan put together. And this is completely self-indulgent, because I just really wanted to read with these two.
There we go.
All right. So I think most of you know me, but for those who don't, my name is Kim Chuck. I organize a monthly reading series at Adobe Books, which I've done for about a year and a half at this point. I have 4 books in print, awards, degrees, blah, blah, blah. Been doing this a while. This stuff stacks up. And I'm going to be reading with Linda Noel, who, and this is awesome, is the poet laureate of Bukai Emerita, and is probably one of my very, very favorite poets of all time. And also with Dwayne Beagle, with whom I have shared a lot of different poetic relationships. I was a student. We were both taught poetry by the same person. At one point, he was a California Poet in the Schools when I was on the board of directors for California Poets in the Schools. I know both of them work quite well. And to be honest, if I had to pick the Native American Poet Laureate of California, it would be 1 and 2, and I haven't decided which one I'd even want first. We're going to be doing something kind of different, which is that we're going to be doing a round robin, so I'm going to call both of them up right now, and then we're going to trade the mic back and forth. So I don't know, but I'm pretty sure at least one of these people has never read here before. So
Okay, so give him the thing.
This is called Love Poem. I was told in a bar in Ireland one time that all I write are love poems. So. Patchwork hat brim lip of bay shoreline. From this hill the ravens are teaching me new drum beats. They drum the nuts open, haul away lengths of my hair. The brown and gray. The ravens drum and weave me back into group story, a material like the rattlesnake grass, like the wandering water, like breathing. The bay goes from green to blue. Ships turn on anchor chains, and the ghost of Mom's birth hospital sings from down the memory of the arroyo, a poem that time provides. The baby ravens grow cradled in my hair, might see me on the street later and wonder why I'm familiar. Are you in love? Can you be more in love than this?
Okay. That's a love poem.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here tonight with him and Dwayne. And then I was taken by the first poem, Leviathan. That's one of my very favorites. I used to be able to recite it until the years started passing. This isn't a love poem. I grew up in a small town in Mendocino County, Willits, which people know by driving through on 101. But they did a bypass. They have one of the oldest 4th of July celebrations called Frontier Days, I guess like in the history of mankind or something. And they're very proud of it. But this is my take on it. Independence Day. Real cowboys and fake Indians walk the hot asphalt of downtown America. Gravel and tar pave the patriotic path of rodeo queen and faceless brass. March to the beat, bellowing national pride. The contemporary cavalry hail stripes and medals, but leave no trinkets as they crush our clamshell history with every step. Justice parades Main Street in wax convertibles and pioneer families on horseback. Tilted steps and shades, sunglasses, sunburn, and spurs mark the face of America, red, white, and blue. Flags fly high through staggered heat waves and fireworks, false star designs.
All right.
I was born in Claremore, Oklahoma. So this is a love poem and the place. Birthplace. I remember the Indian hospital where I was born. It's built around a courtyard with a garden and trees in the center. Years later, I would go back and wait with my mother in the high-ceilinged, white-walled reception room with the dark wooden benches where the people sat. Through the arches of the courtyard, I could see the window of the maternity ward and the bush that bloomed in late spring with fawn yellow flowers. They say a nurse held me up to that window the minute I opened my eyes. I still look for that color, a fawn yellow glint, in the eyes of the woman I'm about to love.
Dwayne knows I know that place. And that bush.
Cherokee.
What? Yeah,
Cherokee.
it's Cherokee now. We kind of took it over. But we do have that tendency. This is called Highway. Route 66 was the river we all lived with, knowing its habits, the fauna, the sacred diners and cafes on its shores, and the seasonal overflow. There is a mythology there that blurs between cultures. No Fred Harvey, but it replaced the railroad. Next food, second floor of the big teepee, and sometimes a hawk not quite dead on the blacktop, the one that marked me with a clenching foot, a reflex between French toast, scrambled eggs, and cubed ham. Tangy coffee when I still smoked cigarettes, and Grandpa had a bronze American Leviathan with whorehound drops, jerky moccasins, gas, and the incandescent constellations of towns at night telling us their very own stories. We don't know them. There are so many ghosts along this river that we share these pinpricks of similarity, these hauntings, this long man, such crime, such home place.
I didn't realize that what the theme was, so I made my selection before I came in. So this is called Anniversary. I can easily recall the day Elvis died. Leticia was driving me from work to the dentist in her bright orange Datsun when the DJ told the news. I was curious with her reaction, and when she finally said it was terrible getting such news on your way to have your wisdom teeth removed. Leticia was older. Elvis meant something different to her. I was more interested in the surrounding hours and what filled them up and what color they were, remembering pictures of him bloated and sweating on some glaring stage, an American favorite, American icon, American style. The dentist job turned out to be more than expected. A jet stream of nitrous oxide dimmed the glare as I tripped on Elvis until called back with instructions to place my fist firmly beneath my chin so my head wouldn't bounce when he used the bone chisel. My head bounced anyway. He commented on the strength of Indian teeth and shook his head in amazement, and in the allotted time of 2 hours he accomplished only half the job. I'd have to come back for the same thing on the other side. He stitched me up and sent me home with false laughter in my blood and a bottle of Percodan, which made me sick and wasn't enough for Elvis. I spent the next few days with my new lover, who tempered my swollen face misery. We talked about Elvis, how my older brother liked him, how his older sisters did the Elvis thing, adored the king, from Jailhouse Rock to Superstition of the Mind. It is 25 years behind today, that August of wisdom teeth, and still every year when Elvis's death is memorialized on radio and TV, I still wonder of those circling hours and the whereabouts of wisdom.
I'm not keeping to the theme, but does anybody know
raise up the microphone?
Does anybody know the nickname that rural people all over America gave to the Montgomery Ward store?
Monkey wards.
Why did they call it? I guess Montgomery Ward was too hard to say.
Right. Yeah.
Traveling to town. When I was very young, we always went to town in the flatbed wagon. We'd leave as soon as the day's first heat had stopped the mare's breath from forming a cloud in the air. Kids sprawled in the back among dusty bushels of corn and beans. As we rode down Main Street, the town revealed itself backwards for my sister and me to see. We loved the brick and sandstone buildings and the farmer's market with its sawdust floor. Best of all was Monkey Ward with its large wood paneled center room and the little wires with paper messages that flew back and forth like trained birds. We finally got to Safeway, where Grandma did the shopping and Grandpa sat outside on the brick steps in the sunlight watching all the grandkids. From a shady coolness on the other side of the street, the ice cream store would call to us with its banging screen door. Grandpa always had money for ice cream, and we'd ride home down Main Street licking ice cream, watching the town reveal itself backwards again in afternoon sun.
Last summer, we drove through Afton, Oklahoma, which is where I used to actually go to buy shoes when I was staying with my grandparents. And half of that building has fallen down and there are still people living in the other half of it. This one guy sits on the corner every day, all day, and apparently all night, because MJ and I drove back through there at 4 in the morning, and she said, well, at least he's finally gone in, and then we saw this plume of his cigarette smoke. No, possibly not. Anyway, got me thinking about this. These are the buildings marked for death. A community of angles, relic shapes cast from life when vital, not fallen, but leaning into an unlucky, inconvenient light, marked and marking accidental tracks, fossils, unintended letters. We used to call this a community.
When I was selected to be the poet laureate of Ukiah, they published this poem. And so I was publicly criticized for this poem because people wrote letters to the editor saying, well, shouldn't poetry be pretty and uplifting and such things? And it's interesting because I never knew these people, but then, you know, like I might run into people and they'd say, hi, Linda, and I'd say hi, and then I'd be like, well, I don't know who they were. Maybe they're the one who wrote that letter. Anyway, it was a story I was married to a Pomo man for 18 years, and it was a story he gave me. And Kim's heard me say this before. In the divorce, he got the good car, but I got the stories. Maybe in Mendocino County, many of the reservations are referred to as rancherias because of the Spanish influence. And so a lot of the native people just say, oh, out at the rancheria. Maybe they couldn't make the shoe fit the foot for Clara and those who waited. Bring some shoes to the rancheria. They never did. No. All the people waited, though. His grandma remembered they all washed their feet that day. The man was coming all the way from Sacramento. They waited and waited. Finally he came, but he didn't bring those shoes. He took some paper and measured their feet, got their sizes, and said he would bring shoes back. And all the Indian people were glad because they didn't have no shoes. They waited and waited. He never did return. Phil's grandma would laugh, remembering the story of the white man bending at the feet of old Indian women who had never before worn white man's shoes. They wondered what he thought. There was something about how he would measure the foot, then write it down and look up at them as if to say, what odd and ugly feet. The old woman's laughter is our own as we speak. Maybe they didn't know how to make shoes to fit Indian feet, or maybe the sight of their feet frightened him away.
I'm going to read a few of this longer bunch of short poems called sound bites. Telegraph message. Nothing's simple. Assume nothing. Conceal nothing. Everything that runs may not be guilty. Nothing more to be done. Nothing other than this. The Osage orange tree from which we made our bows was almost depleted to make fences to stretch barbed wire across open prairie. Even our native trees were used against us. So now the cowboy is disappearing, down from 1.1 million to 800,000 in 1 year. Somebody's fencing off the big ranches into 40-acre ranchettes. Can't run cattle on that. Sounds strangely familiar? We are a nation of standers at the sink. When emotions boil like thunderheads in a Midwestern heat storm, our legs move of themselves and we find ourselves gazing out the kitchen window, hypnotized by the light in the backyard, a glass of water halfway to our lips. The landmine is the perfect metaphor for what is worst in modern humans, greed that blows up in our children's faces, wars of ideas and vengeance that sever flesh and shadow the balance of life. Power comes from the barrel of a gun, Chairman Mao. Do you know what it takes to stop a tank? At noon today, June 5th, a man in a white shirt and dark pants with his thin jacket and a shopping bag hanging in his hands ran out onto the street of Eternal Peace directly in front of an oncoming tank. The tank stopped. 17 tanks behind the lead tank stopped. The lead tank moved to one side. The man moved and blocked it. The tank moved to the other side. The man blocked it. In Beijing today, a single man stopped a column of 18 tanks. The power that comes from a gun can kill a man, but not his courage. He'd had enough, seen enough, lived enough. An unarmed human being pushed beyond limits, made fearless by injustice and his desire to live free. Sound bites.
On the topic of resistance, I guess. This is the second time in my lifetime that some of these things have happened, you know, and I know I'm not the only one in this room for whom that is true. So this is a little bit of advice to the younger people who are doing the resistance at Standing Rock. Gently gather your strength. Sing to the new vest we're making, the linked scales of our former selves, scraps of outgrown shell, lined with perfectly imagined kisses from the heroes we never met. Fold them tightly, wedge them into the cracks. Wear all of the freely given gifts. Wear them openly. Scratch a mark for each day on the wall. Tie a knot for every success. breakfast with ravens. Sand each amulet with their parables. Join me at dawn. Wear comfortable shoes. This is going to take a while.
Potter Valley poem. The pink-scaled salmon breathes in lilac-scented candlelight in a farmhouse window. The salmon of porcelain flesh faces west, a watermelon dusk, and moon draining of light leans through low-woven clouds scattering above the roadside farmhouse where the salmon swims. On the white enameled second-story windowsill, he swims beside her bed, and she believes he breathes her dreams of him.
Oh.
And she believes he breathes her dreams of him.
You gotta do the whole poem again.
I have one for that. Where am I going to find it? Maybe not.
You find the poem.
In the interest of Dwayne finding the poem. This is actually about what's going on in the city these days. It's called Called to the Show. Unfamiliar gaze that never knew the measure marks on the doorframe. Song story in the escalator near the main library. The smell of the lowest floor of City Hall. Where is Norton now? Under an overpass on Division or snuggled in at the foot of Potrero Hill, we saw them wrapped like something precious, like people we need in the jaw-rattling rainstorm last Wednesday. They were there at the root of Otis. We ghosted by in a white van. I was wet from the windshield leak, and there they were, tucked in under the concrete, on the concrete, wrapped like presents. Who taught them that? Where is Norton now? Bait, lure to tourism, this city of flowers of their own face-painted past, and the promise of gold, the spirit of a phoenix, a city kissed and kissed by mythology, kissed with joy. Our neighbors evicted by fire, our neighbors wrapped in blankets near the tracks, and the new colonials who live close but not quite close enough. The unfamiliar gaze is comfortable to remain alien. They pan for their own lives in creeks that they are happy to shift, water they are pleased to drain, to change, the rainstorm, the water in the van, the people on the roadside cherished by blankets, but unseeable, unhearable, wrapped tight.
This was written on Hill Street here. Love song. Picking watercress at dawn, the earth squeezes water from itself, dripping green on the ferns of the creek bottom. Suddenly I want you beside me in the soft, dank mud. Her 1 foot sticks out from under the covers as she sleeps. Strange that her dreams should reveal all my secrets. I am assailed by memories and uncommon reminiscences, as if lights in dwellings on nearby hills where fires in front of the caves of the ancients, as if the softness and fragrance of your skin against my cheek had always been with me, as if I were newborn and could still remember the womb and beyond. Sheets of water break in slow waves against the buildings of the city. Rain is falling in light drops like snow or kisses, sighing down steep, narrow streets on a Sunday morning. Her bed is a warm boat that travels.
It's a good audience.
Display. There is an Indian sitting in the display window on a street in Mendocino. Halloween has passed, so it isn't costume dressed. He sits on a wooden chair, his feet crossed, his stiff cowboy boots are empty, his legs are stuffed in denim, his plaid blue shirt buttoned to the top. He has deep black hair wrapped not in braids down his either shoulder to near his waist, wrapped twice. He looks stoic as Indians do. His face isn't just brown, but more than a tint of red. The village lights come on in soft yellow to meet the clouded twilight, a soft yellow. And this Indian is sitting, I don't know why, and he has a black lab at his side, as Indians do. There is a whittled branch staff lying across his lifeless lap, a branch someone took time to create, topped with some animal horn with the points downward in 4 colors of direction painted in the round end of the hollowed horn. His hands are of a worker's, and I don't know why that Indian is sitting in the display window in a shop in a high-end tourist town touted as a once fishing village. My boots click first on cement sidewalks, then on wooden planks. Maybe it is like the old times of Indians sitting in storefront windows, red bandana faded around his clay face, furrowed his brown-beaten hands, either asking or offering, and darkening footsteps at dinner tables and cocktail happy hour beating against the shoreline. A totem pole stands tall behind him, though he looks as though he is not from totem pole country, but it all blends together, like Indians do. There must be a story in his moist-looking marble eyes, maybe because Thanksgiving is approaching that he is here on the autumn streets of Mendocino with the tide coming back in and the storms layered on the horizon. I still don't know why this Indian is in the display window sitting right below the handmade open sign when the store has long closed for the day, and in the adjacent windows are zebras and giraffes that have nothing to do with an Indian looking stoic in a wooden chair on display in the window in 2011, or butterfly stained glass or Corinthian bells, but I do notice that the liquor flask is a far and safe distance from the Indian sitting in the display window. So she goes back to visit the Indian, but their eyes cannot meet. His shiny round eyes are fixed on the edge of the ocean, crashing at the cliff bottom. Across the mouth of the river, the winter stars, the green-black tree line against the southern sky. He has no periphery, his hollowed clay head expressionless. He doesn't acknowledge my presence. I check to see if the Indian is still in the storefront window. I go to gaze into his plastic amber eyes sitting in modern-day trading post window. Perhaps because it is called a trading post, the proprietor props him up as an attraction, though he is not for sale. I learn that he has a name. He is called Eddie, and not Eddie Two Chiefs or Eddie Lone Wolf or White Wolf, Two Bears or Snake Eyes or Iron Hawk, but Eddie, derived from Edward, English, I presume, though he does not appear like an Eddie like one might name a pet. I also learn he is made of paper and plaster of Paris, oh yes, and some wood, redwood, fir, alder, spruce, maybe myrtle, though it seems odd that a very dark, out-of-place storefront Indian could be partially propped up by a wood called myrtle. I have always felt bad for him. I see that he is tired and worn down, like the rabies tag on the small dog around the neck now sitting on his lap, and his red twine tying and holding his chip plaster Paris hands into the short cuffs has slipped and are showing the nothingness of his arm while his hands dangle. She tells me where Eddie has come from, a name down the coast that means nothing to me, maybe to Eddie, and that he has been in the store for 20 years, and that mine was the first inquiry to which I respond I can easily believe that, and ask of his servitude, intending no disrespect. For one slice of a small moment, Coyote's tail makes a subtle, almost seductive soft wind on my face, lures me to seize this moment. Maybe it is now that Eddie should be set free. Maybe I should unlock him from his duties, his empty, hollow stare, and he could ride away on a seahorse into the Pacific sunset, arm in the air, his chipped hand dangling by a red plastic cord in what would be a triumphant fist like Indians do on posters or paintings.
I think this is the last one.
Yeah.
Okay. In the front page article in the New York Times, the author called into question what Chief Seattle said in his famous 1854 speech, suggesting that was really the ideas of the white interpreter. New York Times in the supermarket. I'll probably get old and ramble like George Looks Quick, standing there next to shelves of tomatoes, almost invisible among the scurrying tourists. Sometimes so much anger gets lodged inside of me day after day. I wonder if I'll ever make it to old. Why do they have to take it away from Indian people in order to make it their own? Saying Chief Seattle didn't say what he said. Doesn't matter what Indian orator said it. What matters is the message, the interconnectedness of all things, and the responsibility that comes from seeing it. The way our fate is connected to the birds, animals, and fish. The way the exhaust pipes of our cars are connected to the air going into our great-granddaughter's mouth. It makes you think about what you do and how you do it. I drive slowly out to the beach and watch the sun and clouds paint the silver image of a bird over and over all afternoon on the gray sea. As evening comes, I hear in my head an old Southern Plains song, the kind singers save for a special moment in the dancing, the kind that makes your hair stand on end. Like in midwinter in Oklahoma, when the bluffs are frozen masks of ice, and you get a glimpse in the brilliant haze of the old ones in heavy robes, standing among shadows of trees, smoking their pipes and talking. Living the old way so deeply, they disappeared into the land, leaving it renewed and unmarked.
Well, that was that. And thank you for the month, and thank you for your ears, and thank you to our features. That
Beautiful.
was awesome.
Another round of please. Kim, thank you, Kim, for helping make this possible. Without her, we wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now let me just go up here for a quick second here. Can I borrow this?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to let you know it was great, beautiful, perfect. Give them one more round there. That was just like, they were taken away. Thank you. So we're going to take a break. The camera will be off. Theoretically, I'll be able to turn it back on. But we're going to have a cut to the break. We have the Cosmic Poet, Hal Robbins coming back to the open, Zane, Garrett Murphy, Greg Pond, David Erdreich, and I think we have somebody else out there, so we will take care of everything. If you're interested in signing up, then please let me know. We'll take care of that. But I'm going to put it on a pause. 9 minutes, we'll be back. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's, yeah, thank you, sorry. Yes, dear.
This goes back to Dan, I guess.